Hi, everyone. I'm Vicki Vollweiler, and welcome to today's episode of College Financial Prep's Preparing for College podcast. So happy to have Joy Loverde today with us. We're going to be discussing a topic that people don't really discuss so often when it comes to preparing for college, and that's our grandparents. The family structure, it doesn't include just the parents and the kids. Grandparents play a huge role. I'm happy to have Joy with us today to discuss grandparents and the children preparing for college. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you so much. I have a lot of credentials. I am a grandmother of 10. So I'm not, so this, everything I'm talking about comes from personal experience and also having been on the road talking to adult children for the past 30 years.
And share with everyone the name of your book.
Oh, I have two books. The one book is called The Complete Elder Care Planner. That is for the adult children learning how to navigate the financial and emotional and housing needs of their aging parents and others. And then my latest book is called Who Will Take Care of Me When I'm Old? So now it's full circle. Now we're talking about us too.
Right. But while you're planning for college, you may also be helping out the grandparents, but the grandparents may in turn also be helping you out. That's what we're discussing.
Exactly. We can look at the finances of college from a family need, not just the adult child, and then looking at what they're contributing to their parents and then what they're contributing to their children. The sooner an adult child can get a better understanding of the finances of the entire family, the better the outcome for everyone. So this isn't just about paying for college, but the big picture.
You said about getting a handle on the finances, of everyone.
Yeah.
That's not really so easy to do sometimes.
Okay, that was a big bomb drop, right? We can't exactly go to mom and dad and say, look, I'm trying to prepare for little Johnny's college. Do you think you can help me out? Well, that'll go nowhere. The conversation.
Let me just say this first, please. So, with college financial prep, what we do is help families save money on the cost of college. Before going to parents, please take all the steps to save as much money as possible, preserve everybody's wealth as much as you can, and then talk to, not then, but have this conversation, but also take these other steps to minimize costs for everybody.
Oh, I love what you just said, because it begins so early that the adult child is thinking about a lot of things, right? Paying for a lot of things. But they often don't think about, will there be a need necessarily to look at their parents and say, are they going to need money? And this is why it's so darn important to start talking about money as an overview subject that includes every single possible expense that will come in someone's lifetime. The hardest thing I've ever seen is when adult children are taken by surprise when they find out that their parents are going to look to them to help finance a longer life. This doesn't have to be the case.
What do you suggest? Having that conversation with parents is hard. With grandparents, rather, is hard. How do you bring up finances?
It starts early on when there's an inkling that parents are going to live a longer life and that the need to be financially secure is something that's on your mind. So we have to seize the moment. For instance, we might come to our parents and say, I was reading an article about long-term care insurance, and I'm wondering, what do you think about long-term care in general? Do you have any plans to finance your long-term care? It's a gentle, gradual conversation. Also, we could go to our parents and ask them for advice. That's one of my favorite ways to open up the conversation. So we could say something like, I'm just beginning to think about little Johnny's college, and it looks like you did pretty good helping me with things as I was growing up. Do you have any advice for me? How would you do it if you were me? You see, we don't necessarily have to come out of the gate and say, I definitely need help with financing college. We have to start way, way early on and initiate conversations that relate to everybody.
Fabulous. So keep walking us through. So now the child is getting a little older and closer to college. The parents are getting a little older. The grandparents are getting a little older.
But he's getting a little older.
Right.
That's right. This is the double whammy of the sandwich generation. Conversations about everything that's related to what it means to live a longer life need to be initiated so that we're really working two sides of the room here. And it's wise for us to do that, because here's the problem. We may find out that our parents really don't have money. And then, oh my goodness, we're trying to help finance college, and we turn around and we find out that it's not so good, right? So we never want to be in that situation, but 9 out of 10 times, our parents may not have money. So in this case, one of the things we have to do is we have to say it's time for all of us to go to an advisor who could help us from here on forward.
Well, so let me ask you, maybe the adult parents can suggest that to the grandparents regardless, before doing anything for college, before even accepting money, a loan, a gift, or whatever it is, just to make sure that a professional reviews their finances and can project out long term.
You got it. It's not about paying for college. It's about paying for everything on both sides, the parents and the kids. And here we are smack dab in the middle. So when do these conversations begin? They begin now. Even if your child is very, very young and it's top of mind. This is about all those things that families pay for. And I'm trying to stress that the adult child doesn't necessarily have to foster the burden of everything, but it's usually our responsibility to bring it up.
Let me just say this to everybody. I know we're talking about grandparents and the possibility of helping to pay for college. I just want to say, the way college costs have been rising, incomes haven't been keeping pace with inflation. Oftentimes people do have to ask their parents for a helping hand, unfortunately, nowadays, whether it's college or something else. So, don't think that this happens more often than people realize.
Right.
And it's important to understand it and have these conversations.
Grandparents love their grandchildren like crazy. They would do anything for them.
Definitely.
For the most part. We have great relationships. And I wish more grandparents would go to their adult children and say, how are you doing with all this, with whatever you need to pay for? Are there classes? Just not college, but everything. Well, I would encourage, if anybody is watching this who has a very close relationship with their parents, to say, I know Johnny would love to hear from you regarding maybe helping him out here and there. And just open it up. Most grandparents love to help their grandchildren. Now, I'll tell you the good news. So I mentioned that I have 10 grandchildren, and it used to be that my daughter and I and my daughter-in-law and son-in-law used to talk, but now the children are getting older, and now they just go direct. They come to me and they say, hey, Grandma, this is what's going on in school, and I need a couple bucks to help me out. Can you help me out here? That's magic. We love that. We want to help.
That's fabulous.
You know what? Money's no good after you're gone. This is when we get to see the fruits of our labor. When we see these children, let nothing get in the way of them being successful in this world. That's my attitude.
Fabulous. So now we're talking about assuming grandparents are willing, able, happy to help with college. But now let's talk about the flip side. What if we learn that they're not?
then the first thing you do, which is good, it's a good thing. The first thing we do is you don't dip into your own pocket. You don't start paying for care. What you do is you say, I would like to arrange a meeting with a financial planner, with an estate attorney, and with someone like you, Vicki, who would be an advisor. What is it? We have to now get down to specifics. How much does long-term care really cost? How much does college really cost? What are we talking here? We need hardcore numbers, and we can't do it in a void. We have to sit down with advisors.
Definitely.
We don't know with the experts, and we need to just create a meeting where we're all together, grandparents, parents, and the advisor, and sit down and let's get the columns and the numbers out in the air. It's so necessary.
And let me stress this, and I can't stress it enough, and people may have heard me speak about this before. I also think it's important, since we're talking about planning for college, I also think it's important for parents to be open with the kids. Nobody has unlimited funds. I think it's an important conversation to have, to say, either this is what we have saved for college, this is what we can do, this is work together with the child, have them understand if there are any limitations, try not to let them apply to every single wish list school out there that's going to be 80,000 plus a year if that's just not affordable. So work together with your child, as opposed to having to potentially disappoint them at the last minute and say, sorry, we just can't afford it, after they've already been accepted and started wearing sweatshirts and banners in the room.
Oh, I've seen that too.
I've seen it too often. It's heartbreaking.
And grandparents could be really helpful at this time. Maybe they could give them a good chunk of money, let's say $1,000, which is a lot of money. But they give it to the grandchild and they say, look, we're going to create a budget now. I'm giving you a beginning foundation. Let's talk about how to build this so that you eventually, if you have to pay for your own schooling, this will help you. If you just have to pay for books and room and board.
Let me say this. Let me just stop you. Sorry. Kids, it's virtually impossible, just so everybody knows, for kids to pay for their own education. The federal government gives them a loan of $5,500, a federal loan. It goes up a little tiny bit when they're in college, but not much. So typically the parents have to take out loans. So if the kids take out private loans, they're still going to need the parents as co-signers. Just so everybody understands, just because Johnny wants to go to school ABC, that doesn't mean that realistically they can afford it.
I see how important it is to have numbers. I'm just sitting here saying the numbers and I'm speaking as a grandparent, they do not know the numbers that you're talking about, Vicki. They don't know how last time they went to school was who knows when, right?
Right. Schools, seriously, they can be over $80,000 a year, and the kids will get $5,500 in loans. Where's the rest going to come from? That's why it's important to consider all different price schools, and to take every effort to minimize those costs, whether it's through scholarships, whether it's need-based aid, merit-based aid, even negotiating with the schools to try to bring it down, whatever can be done. But
I have an idea for your listeners, and this is something my daughter did with me. She, like everybody else, as adult children, they have little time. They're working full time. They're parenting. There's so much going on in their lives. And so one day my daughter called me and she said, would you do me a favor? And I said, sure. She said, I don't have time to do this, but I know you'd be really good at it. She said, I'm going to give you some websites and I need for you to explore some of the scholarships that are available and see if my daughter and son qualify for any of these scholarships. She put me to work, and that was so eye-opening because I got to see scholarships. You would think we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars, right? No. $500 here, $30 here.
However, just so everybody knows, there are basically two flavors of scholarships. You have the schools, you have the scholarships offered by the colleges themselves, and you have the private scholarships. The most money will be had from finding the scholarships offered by the colleges themselves. So you don't need to necessarily spend 80,000 plus a year. You can find schools that will offer your child scholarships. They do not have to be a 4.0 student. They do not have to score 1,600 on the SATs, but there are scholarships out there.
Right. So she only put me to work on the private ones.
Right, right.
But it was eye-opening because that's when I learned how much college costs.
Definitely. Definitely. And that's a great way to even introduce the topic to grandparents and make them see what we're all dealing with nowadays.
It really opened my eyes to what my daughter was dealing with.
Crazy how much everything costs now, but unfortunately that's what we're dealing with. And that's certainly the goal of College Financial Prep, to help people save money on the cost of college. But I love this conversation because grandparents do play a huge role, and they often do want to help with their grandchild's education.
I just encourage everybody to start talking to their parents, not about the college thing, but just start talking about money in general, and hope that there's enough time to be able to meet with advisors who can get everything financially stable for any reason.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for being here today, Joy. Do me a favor. Can you share your website and where everyone can find you and be in touch?
You bet. Everything about me and my work and my books is on my website, which is elderindustry.com.
Fabulous. Thanks so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on College Financial Prep's Preparing for College podcast. Bye.